Hello there, my name is Anthony with Stratamos Computing, here to talk with you about the AI app Kiru, which does a lot of the things that agentic AI does. If you are interested in agentic AI, whether you know a lot, know a little, maybe you've spent a lot, maybe you've been skeptical and spent nothing, I think I might have something to offer here. Whether you were working with an AI agency who built in a workflow, or maybe you were even subscribing to some other AI software, maybe I would still have something to offer. The product at the basic level starts recording, and then you're able to, if you have anything in question, ask the AI, and then depending on your prompt, whatever is in question, and after you tell it what your role is, what you want out of the conversation, and I generally have in the prompt the most recent thing at the end of the conversation that's in question. That's what I would like to have answered in addition to the context of the whole conversation. And then that way, when you're clicking on it, it's giving you the answer that you need. You can also take a screenshot, and you could do both the screenshot and the transcript, or you could do no screenshot or only the screenshot. And as you can see, as I'm speaking, the microphone input is shown here. And then if sound comes in over the system.
For a fundraise. All of this adds up to a world where capability is continuing to accelerate even.
So this would be you, and this would be the person you're talking to, whether that is over Zoom, under desktop audio. And you can, if you don't have a phone program on Windows 11, connect your Android or your iPhone and then have that coming in over your computer. After you connect some headset or some AirPods to your computer, then the conversation will happen over there. And then whatever you're working on, whatever your role is, anything that's in question, you can get the answer there. And why am I making this? Who is this for? What's the ultimate goal? I hope to do a bit more than just one product. I plan on continuing to build features. There's a few features in this I will get into a little later, but it has RAG, it has Salesforce. So talking to you, whether you sign up for the 7-day free trial, no strings attached, or if you want to subscribe for only the flat fee of $14 a month, plus the cost of the very fast, very capable, very inexpensive Llama 4 Maverick model, which would be a few pennies per month for the cost of it nowadays. So during that time of using it, let me know what else. Contact me here, support@stratamos.com, with what else you would like me to build. Would you like me to connect to Google Calendar, Jira, a popular phone system that you use? So then that way, if you have a call center and you would like the app to start recording when the phone picks up, and then at the end of the conversation, ask the AI while stopping the recording, then clear the transcript. And then what that could do, if we go over here, another feature built in to this software is the APIs. So you're able to call these buttons with some kind of middleware server running locally, some little bit of software if you want to set up these routes. So that way, if you are controlling the supervision of people in the call center, performance reviews, then you're able to export the transcript, export what the AI thinks about the quality of that phone call, where people could improve, where they should get credit. So that is something that could be in the prompt. But this is the project. Not only I hope this is an assistant for you, but I hope to continue building these things and make this the everything tool and do the job of the AI agencies that are locally going to businesses and charging 5 figures, 6 figures to build these things, building things like Salesforce integration. And we have that here, Salesforce lead case, task, contact, opportunity, event. And you connect this to your Salesforce account through your client ID right in here. And then I have these other ones not yet built out. That'll depend if you want me to build them out. Maybe I'll build them out. And but that's the future. Right now we have RAG and we have a few of these capabilities. But that's the task, to eliminate the redundancy. And I think this is the stage that we're in. We have some very good models, of course. So if you see the news at all, the trillions of dollars in the economy going in to these big four, and then you have these two over here, and even more from China, creating open source models, just trying to torpedo, make it even harder for these people, spending hundreds of billions and trillions of dollars for them to win in the attention game. But I think where you benefit, the area where we're going to get the low cost benefit, where I hope to bring that to you, would be through Grok, who charges a very reasonable price for some fairly good, for your most business purposes, very good models. They give you very good answers. For example, having a somewhat technical business, and say, for example, you have salespeople who are not quite as technical as they could be. And why would they be? That's really not their job. So something like this will give you the answers to whatever is on screen. Even though this isn't the latest, greatest 50 cent a token call model. I kind of lost my place there. Oh no. Well, the answer was 443. Maybe I could find it, maybe not. Let's try another one. So what is the answer to this one? Let's try this again. What does the AI say? The answer is D. Yep. As you can see, as I demonstrate, that not only from text can it discern the answer, but if you have a client who is emailing photos, sending text messages of photos, and you can get those photos on your computer screen, and whatever your prompt is, say your prompt is because you are someone who dispatches the text out into the field and you need to know how many you need to dispatch and get an idea of what the problem is and what it might take to fix it. If you put that in the prompt here, and then you get your, so if you get your prompt here and then you make this small enough to be visible on the screen, you get the idea. That's an area where this can shine. So that is to say, you don't need the latest and greatest model. We have this model. It's almost 2026 at the time of making this video. This is last year's fairly good open source model, Maverick, 405 billion parameters. Has a wealth of knowledge for most of your business purposes. So what I would like to do, what I would like to see the state of the economy, is to be more efficient, for you to start using this, whether, like I said, if you've paid an AI agency to build custom software into your workflow, and they are, how could I put it, charging you rent. They kind of have you locked in, and your workflow is a little bit brittle. Your workflow can't change, if you need to consider applying your AI to your workflow in a new way, it might cost you a hefty fee per hour and per job and per token. While this is very flexible and you can point it at what you need. So instead of them building an AI agency, building Jira, building Salesforce, building RAG over and over again, I build it once here, you pay me $14, and then you email me what else you need, and then we build more. And then it's done once, and that's really the point. What is AI? We can answer what this AI rolling out into the workforce is by looking at what it does ideally. What should it do? Well, it's a way of saving you time in a certain way of thinking about time as the time between what you want right now, what you set out to do, and how long does it take for that to happen? Not only the steps in between, but the ultimate goal. If you can make that happen with higher quality and make it happen faster, so you're doing it at a higher quantity, and then you're able to add your prompt in here and expend that high cognitive load thing that you're translating, or not high bandwidth, high cognitive load thing, but just repetitive thing in here, then you're making that thing that you want to happen faster. So it's about using the energy. I could go around to different businesses and build custom software, build a Salesforce integration, build a RAG, build APIs into the business over and over again. There's an infinite, when it comes to my time, endless amount, but I can build this once and have this distributed. So just like the way you're supposed to use AI, the way that you are supposed to, when you're expending your energy in the moment, let the AI be the wind in your sails, be the rockets on your skates that bring that ultimate goal, the realization of the best outcome of the goal to you faster, expending that energy once. That's going to be the reoccurring theme, the point I'm trying to make, expending the energy once and having it done. And what's happening now in businesses, because they are right to be a bit skittish and apprehensive, as you may or may not be, about spending 5 or 6 figures for an AI agency to build custom software and point AI models into certain aspects of the workflow. That is not efficient. So what they're doing instead, what a lot of employees take it upon themselves to do, is to just describe what they're doing to one of the big 5, ChatGPT, one of these other few, maybe these 5. And that is also, let's talk about why that is a waste of energy. And I'll get into more detail about this product, but what you can do is, while you're having the conversation, if there's something in question, if there's a task, if you find yourself a lot of times when you're talking to certain people about what needs to happen in a project, in that item 1, item 2, item 3 thing that you need for your objective, for your responsibilities, if you're not getting the note taker, the transcriber there, and then if you're trying to recall that from memory, and then you go into a chatbot and talk about how you're doing it, what you're going to do, well, you're doubling the effort that you already expended. You're kind of circling back. That's a sign of redundancy. And then from what I've heard, a lot of employees in workplaces without the AI integrated, as it could be with something like AI agents, or better yet, this Kiru app, they are having a conversation with the AI about it. But even while recalling that conversation to the best of their ability, it's hard to give the AI the context that it needs. So what happens a lot of times, I'm sure you've had this experience, is when you're talking to the AI, you have to tell it, it gives you an answer. That answer is not quite right. You have to specify more. It gives you another answer. Yes, but that's good, but more on point. The specificities of the situation and the requirements are this, and this is my role, and let me upload a photo, and let me upload some documents, and now do you understand? Yes, I understand more now. And having this back and forth. So stop laboring to give the AI that context and just have the context here in the conversation, and let the AI do its work on the context that you give it. So that is really, though these people are working on super intelligence, what needs to be rolled out to the workforce to take advantage of the AI is to give them context and have a flexible tool that points the AI at the workflow, what you're doing now, whatever is in question. And then hopefully we can find a consensus with more users, and then I can add more and more features. And speaking of more context, adding the RAG, adding files, there are AI agencies that will, you might ask, what's this agent thing? What do you offer? What are these agents? And they say, yes, well, we can get agents, train of thought reasoning, tool calling to every time there's a query, get those agents calling, doing chain of thought on your emails, all of the emails. And that's a bit much. It's a bit expensive. It is not only to build a system like that, but then to babysit it and make sure it's not going off the rails. Well, on the other hand, you could just upload all of those emails into this RAG system here and then tell the model in the prompt that the emails are there for its consideration. So simple, easier, less redundant. That's always the goal. And I don't think we want to be writing paragraphs and pages of text and reading more and more pages of text to manipulate, steer the AI, reading what it thinks might be the answer and then giving it more and more text. That's a sign of redundancy. Information in some ways is a symptom of uncertainty. So we don't want to have uncertainty. We just want the AI to have as much context as possible and then get a really good prompt. From the last few years what a difference a prompt makes. And we will use, during this project, we will have a good tool, flexible tool to point at what you need. And really it's like, as I said, bringing the thing that you want to happen, that's going to happen in the future, bringing that closer, making that goal become realized faster with less effort, less redundancy. You can think of it like putting tracks or putting the thing that you want on wheels. We're sure that the invention of fire and the creation of wheels was something that did just what I'm talking about, makes what you want to happen sooner. And speaking of redundancy, if you were alive in the 80s, there was no wheels on the luggage. And they had the plastic, they had the technology, they had plenty of plastic. I'm sure in the 60s, this looks like 60s luggage. And then the 70s for sure, but it really wasn't till the early 90s that we got something like this with the wheels on the luggage. So same deal with the cost, the inefficiency. You can think of cost like the cost of having to get on this bike and the cost of something crossing your path and having to get off the bike, whether you need to get off immediately or getting off in the best of times, the cost and the computer is like a bicycle for the mind, as Steve Jobs once said. So using the efficiency when you compare other animals and what it takes for them to move and how fast they can move per energy watts expended, the human is the best with a bicycle, but not this kind of bicycle. So, and I would also say not with building in redundant agent workflows, not working with an AI agency to build a Salesforce integration for people that could have been 100 users of this product instead. So that's a little bit about what this does and what maybe your needs are. If none of that appeals to you, I'd still like to hear from you. Reaching here at this email. Let's actually make sure we're showing that on screen. This email, stratamos.com. And then I'll do a little more demonstrations, go in a bit deeper with the features here. And let's sign up in Salesforce. If you're integrating this app into Salesforce, then you're going to need to build an app in Salesforce, which is beyond the scope of this video right now. So that's something you can tell ChatGPT or one of the other big models you want to do in Salesforce. You need your client ID from Salesforce, and you're going to enter that right in here. Save it once. So let's, after where we want to be here, after we sign up, as a matter of fact, let me just clean this up right now. But having a faux email on the screen, which might be part of your workflow, part of a lot of workflows, I'm sure, looking at data on the screen and extracting information from it, putting it into fields. This is something that you could tell the regular prompt to do, is to extract certain titles and certain fields into a JSON object. And you can use, where is that? You can use the APIs built in and then extract that and send that to your Jira or your calendar, or tell me if you'd like that to be built in natively. But I digress. I can do a lot of brainstorming here. I can really fill up this video with a lot of brainstorming about the things that you can do, but you might already have some ideas about what you might want to point this at. But here's Salesforce creating one of these objects. If you're not on the phone and you want to extract it only from the screen, let's get this text on the screen, and then we'll clear that transcript, make sure that earlier text is not interfering. Then we ask the AI. So then this populates with the fields for the, what is our object? Our contact object. So this is called human in the loop before it is sending it off to Salesforce. Then you're able to look at it. We don't need a description. That's okay. Yeah. If you were on the phone with this person, is that spelled Jolie? Yes. And you phonetically sounding it out. That's something that is going to show up in the transcript itself. So sending that off to Salesforce, you should get that window. And then this might take a minute or two to populate in Salesforce. Let's give it a second. Shows up here in recent records in home. And there's our new record. And There are those details. Simple as that. And you might ask, yeah, okay, what if this person does send an email, someone enters it, but then that person calls in later, and then I have a different employee, maybe even in a different department. When it is time to try another screenshot, we'll ask the AI. There's that name and information again. Then when we send that, now you get this error, which is only an error that we have a double entry. So that's good. Nothing bad happened. And it's not this app checking. It's Salesforce that prevents that from happening. So in that case, your employee would then go in and look up this contact. And that's Salesforce. So it works for the other ones. And as you saw there, the way that it extracts that into the JSON. This is called JSON format, generally what the apps use to talk to each other with. But that's just a prompt. The prompt here with instructions. So that shows you how flexible and reliable it is. I've tested this quite a bit, and I've never had a situation where a prompt was, a field name was misspelled or something. Very consistent that way. But let's move on. Let's also talk about using Grok. You would enter the Grok key one time. If this is your first time using it, just going into Grok, GROQ, not GROK. GROQ. As you can see, I've been testing this quite a bit. Last month, also testing quite a bit. And how about all time? All time usage, 25 cents. And quite a bit of calls to the model. And this is not the cost you'd be getting from a typical model. As long as you're not in science, some deep, hard technology, engineering, math, you're not going to need the latest and greatest models. They've somewhat plateaued, so these already are very good for a lot of purposes. And how about we talk about the API, for example, if we want to do something like, I have a entry into Salesforce, new contact. The name is Tommy. The last name is Bahama. The email is tommy@tropicalislandsun.com. The phone number is 1233445. The title is It Was the Best of Times Tropical Beach Time, the Department of Resorts. That's like the vacation type of resort. And the description would be that this contact has good sunglasses, has cool shorts, and wants to come surfing. So here's another creation of a Salesforce object, but instead of calling it here, we can call it, see how that goes with the API. And then this is one of the API routes. Here, just doing the localhost 510 when ask. So there's that spoken information. You heard me say it. Pretty good. And what else? What else really is there to say? Might seem like a situation where you might not want your employees having all of their conversations transcribed and screens. What's it doing to the screen? Is it controlling the screen? Well, it's not controlling the screen. It's just the same thing as dropping a screenshot into OpenAI or uploading a photo or uploading documents into ChatGPT or what a lot of your employees are already doing if they have or have not had some agent or AI workflows built in. So there's no control of any browser. This is not running on the cloud. This is not connected. Well, there's a little bit of connection when you enter that license. Let's go in here actually and log in. The $14 subscription is for one seat. So it does pair. And then if you wanted to unpair it, move to another computer. So one subscription does not work for a company of 100 employees. Every one of those employees would need their own license key. So when you enter that license key, that part of this software does technically connect, but there's no data, there's no screenshot data. This is not connected to the cloud. The audio is not going out over the internet to the cloud, to anything. And the transcripts are not connected to Stratamos computing or Kiru. Your queries go through Grok. So really it's the same thing as if you had someone in the room next to you overhearing the conversation, an assistant then typing into Grok or ChatGPT when you needed an answer. And has to be said, it might seem like you're losing a bit of control, but this is running locally. The model, there is a small AI model that transcribes the text, which transcribed this text that I was speaking. That runs locally. That can even run on a laptop if you have a cheap $500 laptop, as long as it's not too old. This will run just as fast as it is right now on my somewhat beefy gaming computer here. And so it's not in control of any files. It's not the cloud. There's no training. Whatever's happening between you and Grok, that's between you and Grok. I wouldn't think they would betray you. You know, they're not going to, even though your customers or your competition might want to get that information. I don't think Grok, or in the last 20 years, Google or Facebook, even though they also might have that information or could infer that information from your business, I really don't think that's their business model, would be to stab you in the back with the information, which I would think would be the most sensitive, aside from if you're in healthcare or you're in law, certain government work, of course, then you would have your own rules already. So anything that you wouldn't or have already received guidance about not sending over ChatGPT, then that would be the same thing that you wouldn't want to point this to, but it's only calling the model, literally doing, aside from transcribing, although this also transcribes, but literally doing the same thing. And as I've heard, 90% of and upwards of employees are using the chat windows, the chat bots, and not even the local AI. They're literally using the generic AI from the big models, but giving this more context should really give you something, really give you a lot. And what it can do generally, actually, let's get rid of these, show it off a little more, the capabilities. We'll get out of the Salesforce. And let me also mention, reminds me, if you're dealing with an AI agency and they're building in custom software, pointing models directly at your process, something like where the emails come in or where the phone calls come in, situation like that, then the other cost in the future, other redundancy, which we started this video on, would be when the new model comes out, I've already talked down this model a bit, that it's not the latest and greatest. But when the new super intelligent model does come out, that's going to make us all one-man CEOs of trillion-dollar companies, you're going to see it right in here. I'm going to drop it in there. You're going to check for updates. And checking for updates and seeing if that model is in the new update is going to be much cheaper than if you go with the other option of an AI agency who builds in models, which also builds in the RAG in specific ways, which is a cost to upgrade that model. So updating this model will be low cost, no cost. I don't have any plans of jacking up the price. I haven't spoken of much of other software that might be out there similar to mine, but from what I've seen, when you go to the website, they tend to not give you a price, and it tends to not be as low maintenance as I am. I have where if you want to sign up, start a trial, you don't have to interact with me. It's just something you try out. You create your account, and then it's as simple as that, just as simple as going through the process to sign up for any of the big other AIs. Although I don't have a free tier because I don't train on your data, but this is the hopefully what you get. Hopefully what I offer is a lower cost, lower friction, lower maintenance situation if you want to go with my software compared to whatever other software is out there. I know this is kind of a no-brainer to kind of get rid of the redundancy I was comparing, like luggage without wheels or bicycles with a huge front wheel. But the software that I offer is a flat fee. I tell you what the fee is. If you go to other software, I've seen situations where when you want to know what the cost is, there's a button that says contact us, and then you are contacted by a sales team. Might be aggressive, might not be, but they're not showing you the price because they're going to try to see how much they can get from you, right? So other software companies funded by venture capitalists. Stratamos software is not funded by venture capitalists. Stratamos software is built only to serve clients, and we will continue to offer more features at this same fee to drive adoption, to have a community, see what the consensus is for the community for how to continue building, how to continue rolling out the best features you need for the future of AI. So at low cost, we can see people ride the wave of this AI revolution, which is very real. And so not only your situation might be when dealing with other competing software that might do something similar, they would not only not show you the price, not only be funded by venture capital founders, funders who want to extract a pound of flesh from a sales team with high fees, but also, from what I've seen, they don't give it to you all for a flat fee. They would charge you extra for RAG. They would charge you extra for some Salesforce integration, and maybe even charge extra, or maybe not even have the API that we showed here. So something else to consider. If there is something better out there, I'd love to hear about that. Always open for any suggestions, any comparisons. Something I haven't spent much time on. I'm more focused on what you need, hopefully, what I can offer. But let's go back here. So this is not enabled. And just talking to the model, how about the person who won Best Supporting Actor in 1978? What do you think their character they played, what do you think their net worth was? Did they make a pretty good living, do you think, from their role? Who was on Mount Rushmore? Who were the 4 people on Mount Rushmore? What denominations of money were those people on? The people on Mount Rushmore. So just giving, why not talk to it a little bit, show off some of the capability. What does it have to say? Oh, yeah. Best Supporting Actor was Jason Robards for Julia. You know, I think at the transcript, I might be a little bit strict with the amount of words it can respond with, which might be good. Or in this case, maybe not so much. Let's ask that again. So there it's given our answer about the money denominations. So Lincoln was on the 5. Roosevelt, $10 bill, not Franklin. Okay. Oh, net worth of this character in Julia, they said, was 10 million. Maybe it misunderstood. So I think I've been through all the features. Now I'm just showing off a little bit the capabilities. And then you can open the transcript to see. Yes. And big transcript, you might be wondering, how long of a conversation can you let it hear? You can go for 60 hours. You can talk for longer than any human has ever been awake before you would run out of the input. I don't know how it performs with a 60-hour conversation. That's going to be a lot of context, maybe even too much context. Maybe next year's model might do better on that amount of context, but you don't have to be in fear that situation of filling up too much talking. Let's clear this. Clear that transcript. So the people on Mount Rushmore, did you say that Roosevelt was on the 10, or did I misunderstand that? The 4 people on Mount Rushmore, what denominations of money were they on? What year did each of them first become featured on those denominations of money? Which one was not on any money? Which was on the most different denominations of money? Wow. Theodore Roosevelt was on the $10,000 bill. Lincoln was on the 5. And then Teddy was on the 10,000. It repeats. Was Abraham Lincoln on the $100 bill? And give me the years that all of these people became first featured on the bill. Yeah, Lincoln was on the 5 since 1914. He was also on the $100 bill, the 1914 series gold certificate though not currently on, of course, the $100 bill. And now we get dates, gives us the dates. Pretty good considering I don't have anything in the prompt about it being an expert on presidential or monetary or monument history. But I think it would become, in fact, I would assume it would become even more focused if you put the prompt in here, if that's what your topic was. I know a lot of people doing certain cognitive work do a lot of repetitive things. So putting the role in here, putting the general objective in here, and then also having your, text file with your different prompts for your different things. Like I said before, I can brainstorm a lot, which would be really, I think, for you to take this flexible tool and just point it at what you're doing when you're doing it. So that would be better. I think your alternative, if you don't have this software and you were to contact an AI agency, it's like they say, have I use this analogy before? If you ask the barber if you need a haircut, the barber will say you need a haircut. If you ask the AI agency if you need custom software and LLMs pointed in many different places in your business, what they will say, well, they'll try to work with you, and their time is not going to be cheap. So for them to work with you and experiment and hash out where you might want a model to be pointed at and what the prompting and what the RAG should be, they're going to build that RAG system and build in those files. And they're going to do that one time, and then they're going to go on to the next client. Well, whereas I've made this point several different ways, this is something that you can do. Pretty simple, adding these different things. If you wanted to know the price of oil in Johnson & Johnson stock, then you wanted to add that's there for you to add, or all of your emails, or if you want to extract some previous conversations, that's something else you can do. And don't know if I mentioned it, but other things you can do with these routes. There was a little bit of talk about AI agents, and that means different things to different people. But there's something else called tool calling and chain of thought reasoning. And if that's what you want to do when you have your transcript and your answer from the AI, and you want to export those and have those sent out to something called N8N, if you want to go down a wormhole with this, can really do some very productive things with this. For example, like extracting text from conversations and sending it to Salesforce, but you can do almost anything with these. But how do I even begin to describe the things that you could do with these? Agentic workflows, tool calling, if you wanted to call another model in here, a deep research model, if you want to subscribe to the $200 a month tier models and have them taking a look at all of the outputs and all of the transcriptions of the day. You know your business better than I do, better than anyone. So having those output and extracting those and then sending those into files, adding those into files, you can really compound the value. These are things you can do yourself, or you would also have a head start with an AI agency if you have this as your eyes and ears and your type 1 thinking genius AI queried here. But then to go on to tool calling, certain tools being called, certain emails being sent out under certain conditions, or some deeper reasoning, or searching the web. Maybe your dispatcher needs to know what the weather is going to be, what's the forecast in 2 days. This model doesn't search the internet, but that's something that you could output the transcript and output what the AI says about that, and then load that in with another prompt and have this exported. Let's see, what's it saying now? Just calling the model again in this route. So it's answering our question again, but then having this sent off if we need to know the weather on Mount Rushmore, because we're going out there to add another face to Mount Rushmore and some more money. Something you could load this into and have that prompted. So the brainstorming is endless, but what you just want to do is utilize the energy you're using and be put the wheels in the fast track, use the AI, put the AI, experiment with putting that layer of intelligence everywhere you can. So thank you, and I hope to hear from you.